it really, there's some science in it, maybe?
Yeah.
You also just clear this up. You are an action hero as well. Since you did your
Yes, my job is just like what you saw.
Yeah, that's right.
Minus the exploding houses and steak and eggs.
Exactly. Well, the way this works, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and then we're going to turn over to the audience, and we'll have them ask some questions for you. Now, since this is climate cinema, and we want to look at the intersection between climate change and other aspects of the consequence of climate change, can you talk a little bit about what global temperature rise might do to affect the intensity or frequency of severe storms and tornadoes?
Yeah, this is a great question. I get this often. If you want to skip past my 5-minute rants, the short answer is we don't know for sure. There's a lot of research going on this topic. We can talk about some of the things that we think will happen. And to do that, we have to understand why tornadoes form, at least what we think we know. You look at the ingredients for tornadoes. One thing you need to have is a lot of water vapor, a lot of moisture in the air. That's what forms the thunderstorms. In a warmed world, it's pretty clear that the air is warmer over the bodies of water, like the Gulf of Mexico. So therefore, we have more water vapor. So put one check in the plus side for tornadoes. Another thing we need is instability. Thunderstorms exist for a reason on Earth here, and that's to take an excess of heat from the ground and transport it towards colder up aloft. And if you've ever flown airlines out of Lubbock International and you just ignore the safety briefing and open the exit door and go sit on the wing at 20,000 feet, it's really cold. This time of year, it's probably about 0 degrees Fahrenheit out there. So it's a lot warmer at the ground than it is aloft. In a warmed world, we know that heating is taking place closer to the ground mostly. So that difference between what's happening at the ground and what's happening aloft is greater. That means stronger storms. So there's 2 checks for the plus side. I think it's a little bit hairy from there. I was just reading an article that was just published on some other effects. It turns out in a warm world, something we call the Kappa inversion. This is what happens in West Texas. We have this layer of warm air that sits right above us, and that keeps air from rising. That's called the cap. And in a warm world, we actually have trouble overcoming that cap. So at this latitude especially, there's likely to be less storms following just that ingredient. And then finally, wind shear. This is so important for these storms, like what you saw in this film, are called supercell storms. They rotate pretty strongly. They're the parent storms for tornadoes. And to have supercells, you need to have wind shear. That just means that the wind comes from different directions and speeds with height. So you can imagine if I put like a ping pong ball in the flow here, and I hit it with different winds on the top and bottom, it's going to cause it to spin, right? And when that spin is part of what makes up the rotation of the storm, and by some extension the tornado. In a warmed world, the jet stream, which I think a lot of us are familiar with, right? You've seen the telecast at night, the big river, strong winds aloft. That jet stream is there because of difference in temperature between the equator and the poles. Well, in a warm world, the poles warm a lot more than the equator does. So the difference across the hemisphere is less. The jet stream is therefore weaker. The wind shear is weaker. And therefore, there's another check mark for the minus side for tornadoes. So the bottom line out of all that last 5 minutes, is we're not sure. But there's a lot of argument for it and against it. The consensus in the literature right now is that the pluses outweigh the minuses to some degree, which would be a greater intensity and frequency.
And it's my understanding that there are going to be changing weather patterns, and that's part of the uncertainty with respect to the effects of a warm world. And so we may have differential increasing storms in one area and a reduction in storms in another area, something like that. Is that
yeah, that's a really good point. One thing that's pretty much universally agreed upon is that the jet stream moves further north in a warmed world, which means the weather systems, everything is further north. And that's, actually has implications for not just tornadoes, but for precipitation period here at, in West Texas. So that's a good point, yeah.
So let me ask you the next question here. With Twister being made in the mid to late 1990s, can you give some high points on the scientific or technological advancements in the research about storms, tornadoes, what we've learned now in terms of how far have we come?
Yeah, technologically, I mean, you saw at the beginning of the film there, they had that satellite flyby. It said GOES 8. That was in 1996. We just launched GOES 16 last fall. We've come a long ways. The satellite technology is such now, we get really high resolution depictions of 1-minute updates now on some of these cloud features. We have a lightning map around there. We can actually map lightning from space now. It's really exciting stuff. My wife actually works with, we'll be working with some of those data, I imagine. And yeah, in terms of the satellite mobile radar, there's back in 1996, there was just maybe a couple. Now we have a lot of mobile radars. Texas Tech has a couple of them. I take mobile radars out a little bit bigger than the one that Joe had, in that little tripod sitting on top of her van there. But we take these out. We get up close to tornadoes. We probe them with these high frequency radars, and we learn about their inner core and what makes them tick. And this substructure. You saw that. I don't want to refer to the movie too much here. Lose my scientific credibility here later. But you saw it, when they look up at the end there, you see those inner vortices. They call those sub-vortices, those multiple vortices. And those are where the strong winds are. And in F5 tornado, it's those little sub-vortices that cause all the damage. And that's what causes this random pattern of damage. You see that the house was saved, but the sheds were destroyed. That's because it's like a little buzzsaw. Whether or not you see the destruction depends on whether you see those vortices. So yeah, there's that. The dynamical understanding. I work a lot with tornado observations. I've been in the field for almost 20 years now, if you count grad school. And we've seen a lot of things out there. But we're learning about what happens on the storm scale that causes tornadoes to form. And it's really a golden age, I think, in terms of observational science and tornadoes.
Well, if there's anything else, any other aspects of the film that particularly struck you that you want to comment on or add anything to?
This is probably the 20th-ish time I've seen this movie, and I think all 20 times I had a beer in my hand, counting this one. It's funny. I liken it. This is probably how doctors feel when they watch Grey's Anatomy. It's there's a lot of things that are right, a lot of things that are wrong, and a lot of things that are sensationalized. But I will say this movie really sparked interest amongst students in the discipline, and we just had a groundswell of interest in research, especially observational research that came out of this movie. And there's been a lot since then. We've had The Day After Tomorrow, Into the Storm, I think, some of the lesser known ones like Night of the Twisters, Revenge of the Twisters, the quintilogy of Sharknadoes. Yeah, thank you.
You were a consultant on those.
Oh gosh, I hope not. Jeez, I wasn't sober if I was, but it's really the original, the seminal work really was sober.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Dr. Weiss. So now I think we'll open up to questions. If folks have questions, please raise your hand, and Professor Pearl will. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you. The great big tornado that we saw there at the end, and when they're looking up and you see the outer dark, dirty part, and then there's an inner core that's clean, and then it looks like there's another like skinny twister in the middle of it. Do we know if that's what tornadoes actually look like?
Yes, a lot of them do, and large tornadoes especially. Typically, smaller tornadoes, weaker tornadoes obey what we call a single cell. That means you have air that comes in the center. It's kind of like a vacuum cleaner. It goes up in the middle. Pretty much what you would normally expect. But large tornadoes, it's a really amazing dynamical thing. Really large tornadoes actually create down motion in the center and real strong upward motion on the flanks. that one vortex breaks down into multiple vortices, kind of like what you saw in the movie. We call these multiple vortex tornadoes. A lot of your EF4, EF5 tornadoes fit that model. And you often don't see that structure because there's a whole bunch of dirt and debris that's kicked up around it. You don't see that inner structure. But if you get a chance to see the kind of skeletal structure of an EF5 tornado, it does look an awful lot like that, yeah.
Why does a tornado, like if it goes over a mobile home, would take the ceiling, roof, and the flooring but leave the walls?
Oh, tornado damage, yeah. It's first of all, the mobile home aspect. A lot of people think mobile homes attract these things. That's an old wives' tale. Obviously, they don't. But we hear about mobile homes getting affected more because there's more damage. Yeah, mobile homes that aren't tied down are susceptible to rolling over easily. That's why you're supposed to get out. Even if they're tied down, you'll see it fail in the mode that you pretty much described, where the top comes off and the sides come off, but the bottom maybe remains anchored. You don't want to take a chance. You want to get out. And it sounds so stupid. You get these calls to action, from the warnings, to abandon mobile homes and lie in a ditch. You're like, every aspect of your human instinct says that is a terrible idea. But it really does make sense. For the same reason you wouldn't get in a car, because it can get lofted. And if it gets lofted, you get lofted. A lot of people don't understand this, that our human nature is, when we take shelter, we cover ourselves, right? We get in a house, we have a roof. This is why people get under bridges, overpasses, because we have shelter over top of us. The threat zone from a tornado is really sideways. It's really coming in from the side. Things are moving. How many times do we see that? It's things moving horizontally in this film. So you really want to make yourself as small a target in the vertical as possible, and lying down in a ditch, as long as it doesn't flood. God knows that thing with the tractor and the ditch. Oh God, that was awful. There's a lot of things you shouldn't do that happened in this movie, but we'll give them a pass, I guess.
Are there more than 5 categories of tornadoes?
Well, it's actually, if you count EF0, there's actually 6. It goes EF0 through EF5. The EF, you heard them talk about F scale in here. Back in 1996, we had the Fujita scale, and it actually was just equal points on the Buford scale. So that it was actually like, I think F12 would have been the speed of sound. You can imagine a tornado with a trailing shockwave. But yeah, F5 was, according to Ted Fujita, that's the F and F scale. He said anything above F5 was inconceivable, and F6 would be inconceivable. And actually, in May 1999, you probably know this, Moore, Oklahoma, that's the first time, like 5 times they got hit in that next decade there. And the wind speeds, there was a radar out there, not ours, it's the Doppler on wheels, which some of you may have heard of. It's operated by the Center for Severe Weather Research up in Colorado. And they measured with that radar 316 miles per hour. And they actually released this in the press. And they didn't realize when they released it that actually was above the top level of then the F scale, F5 scale. And boy, that really caused the stir. And after that, they revised it back down to another 10 miles an hour to get inside the F5 range, because we're talking about inconceivable tornado. That's still the strongest tornado actually observed by Doppler radar, 316 miles per hour. But yes, there are actually 6 categories technically.
All right, Dr. Weiss, your undergrad students, I just wanted to thank you for coming out and not showing up to class drunk.
Thank you for that. Who is talking right now? All right, okay, get to the grade book on that one.
I already graduated.
Okay. That mark, I got it.
So I've got a science fiction question for you. Has anyone proposed any technology that would prevent a tornado from hitting an urban center, or diffuse a tornado, or stop a tornado?
Oh, if I had a dime for after every event, I start getting emails of people that have ideas. Most of them involve some combination of nuclear bombs. I even had a creative one last year with a boomerang. That was Yeah, shooting tornadoes, hear that a lot. There's a lot of problems with these things. I don't need to tell you the problems with detonating a hydrogen bomb near a tornado. Obviously, the collateral damage is far exceeds that of the tornado, but yeah, a lot of these things stem from the fact that people, and this movie didn't really help in that regard, people think of tornadoes as solid objects, you know, the whole electric funnel concept, you know, don't get touched by it. You know, in reality, of course, the threat zone of the tornado is wide, it's an area of low pressure, it's windy, you're going to get hit by debris, you know, well away from the actual some tornadoes don't even have condensation funnels, but people lock in on that condensation funnel like it's electric and solid. Yeah, I've heard, if anything holds merit, I mean, I've heard some people talking about things like you're creating a lot of negative buoyancy, like you know, putting dry ice, you know, somewhere around where the tornado's at and zapping all the buoyancy. Yeah, it's possible that might, you know, in a large quantity have some effect on a small tornado. I'll get my soapbox here if you don't mind. The problem with that, as much as I hate to say it, you know, weather does happen for a reason. Thunderstorms happen for a reason. Tornadoes happen for a reason. The atmosphere needs to release that instability through that weather phenomena. And if you start inhibiting that or restricting it from happening in an artificial way, it's still going to happen somewhere. And it's probably going to be more intense than the original attempt. So that, you know, that opens up a whole bunch of other snowballing questions from there. But yeah, weather modification, it's a real dicey thing. But yes, in answer to your question, there are a lot of theories out there. Same for hurricanes. There's all sorts of, I hear conspiracy theories about the Russians all the time. And it's, yeah, and I don't do hurricane research, so.
Why does the sky turn green before a tornado strikes? And are there any other signs that you can look for, you know, just looking outside that a tornado is about to hit your area?
Yeah, the green sky thing. Yeah, there's been debate on exactly what that is. The best explanation I've heard up to this point has something to do with the presence of hail and how hail refracts electromagnetic energy, so it actually creates hue. It refracts selectively, meaning different color wavelengths get bent differently. So you end up with this greenish hue. Yeah, that's probably the best explanation I've heard for the green. Now, in terms of what you know, whether or not, you know, what other cues you have for a tornado, large hail falling that should always be a warning sign. We're talking, you know, West Texas sized hail here, like baseballs and grapefruits. So that doesn't come out of ordinary thunderstorms. That comes out of largely supercell thunderstorms. So if you're seeing hail of that dimension, you should be a little bit worried. Typically, tornadic storms move from southwest to northeast. And the precipitation and the large hail and the grapefruits and all that stuff that are coming out of the storm, that hail, that stuff also falls to the northeast because that's the direction the upper level winds are blowing it. So if you're receiving that hail of that dimension, there's a good chance that you're in the threat zone for, you know, where that tornado is going to eventually come. At least you'll be pretty close to it. So I'd say hail's a big one for sure. You know, obviously, if there's a tornado going on, the winds are going to be blowing very strongly in towards the wind. That's when I would worry quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm curious if you could speak a little bit to whether or not you perceive sufficiency in the warning system that we have right now for tornadic activity. Specifically, I'm thinking, as a child, I can remember seeing tornado warnings. I grew up in West Texas and seeing tornado warnings. You're like, here, that means they spotted a funnel cloud somewhere in the sky, and, you know, continue on with whatever activity I was doing. So I never really saw them as really sufficient. But
yeah, they have improved. When the Weather Service switched over to the current Doppler network, and that was the late 1980s, we saw a rapid increase in what we call probability of detection. So that means that there were less events that were not getting warned properly. The area where we struggle a lot still is with false alarm rate. And right now, and trust me, I'm not picking on the Weather Service. There's a Weather Service employee here too. Hi, Joe. The false alarm rate is about 75% on a tornado warning. And that's with the mission of the Weather Service. They want to protect life and property. You don't want to miss a fatal, tornado event. But it comes at the risk of a false alarm rate. So they've done some things in the last few years. One thing is they've stopped actually, contrary to what you see on the television screen still, when you see the multicolored display, that bug that pops up in the corner and always covers up the part of the screen you want to see. They stopped issuing warnings by county. Instead, what they do now is they actually issue polygons. They actually trace out the path crossing county lines of where they expect the tornado to go. So that narrows the warning down. The problem is that the dissemination of that warning is still county-based. So if you have a NOAA weather radio, for example, it's still going off if your county is, and this happens all the time. Northeast Lubbock County is under the warning, and my radio is going off in Wolford, and it's clear sky, and that I know what's going on. I study this stuff. I know we're out of the threat zone, but to the average Joe Q public, they hear tornado warning, they go outside, they see blue sky. It's not good on the cognitive side there. I think for warning fatigue and stuff like that. So and again, that's not really the Weather Service's fault. What's interesting, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a side here, but right now our warnings are based on detection. So that either the Doppler radars are seeing rotation in the storm, usually aloft, or spotters are seeing tornadoes. What you're going to find, if we have this, if we're going to do this in climate cinema in 10 years, still sane. What you'll find is that warnings are going to be based on forecasts. These numerical models are becoming more sophisticated, more resolute, where we can resolve storms and tornadoes. And you're going to find that these numerical models are going to be integrated into the warning process. The computer says that Southwest Lubbock is under the gun in 30 minutes. I think that's a fascinating thing. I think it'll increase the lead time. I don't know about the false alarm rate. It's tough to say. Well, one of the areas of research I pursue is false alarm rate. How can we reduce that? And I think with knowledge of certain things outside of the rotation of the storm, which is what we're warning on. For example, if it's really cold at the ground, that tends to inhibit tornadoes. I think that we can bring that false, kind of like what you saw there, minus all the tornadoes. We sampled supercell storms on the plains for a couple years. And then right now, we're actually funded by the government to study tornadoes in the southeast. That's not a place we typically think about for large tornadoes, but it has happened. 2011, April 27th, big outbreak. Maybe some of you had family out there that were affected by it. Mammoth number of tornadoes and fatalities. Well forecast event too. And so this research project we've been out in Alabama, Huntsville, northern Alabama, for the last 2 years, and putting probes in the ground. We have probes kind of like Dorothy, sort of. These are engineering tripods. They're called stick nets. We hammer them into the ground. We get the heck out of the way and let the tornado move over top of them. And we don't release little Pepsi cans into the tornado. But the research is still pretty young for the Vortex SE. We didn't really have really potent storms out there. The climatology is really flat out there, so it's we had some weaker tornadic storms that we got in a couple cases. The big thing out there, whereas here in West Texas we get these big supercell storms. You guys have seen them. I'm sure taking pictures of them out here before. In the southeast, we have kind of hybrid modes. They're kind of like lines of storms with embedded like wrap-up circulations. And those create weak tornadoes that have very little advanced warning. So it's a completely different mode. And we're still trying to understand those a little bit better. So ask me again in a few months and I'll have a better answer.
Well, thank you very much. Can I give Dr. Weiss a round of applause? Thank you so much. So, this is our last screening for the semester. Climate Center will be back again in the spring semester.